Ooh, la-di-da, I should probably film that wrap-up today. You know, the BookTubeAthon ended earlier this week. Where are all those books that I read? All those library books that I read? Oh no. What is up, everyone? My name is Jaime, and welcome back to We're on the Same Page. This is my Readathon Week wrap-up. So, when I discovered that the Summer Biannual Bibliothon was happening on top of the BookTubeAthon, I decided that I was going to combine some of the challenges from the Summer Biannual Bibliothon on top of the challenges from the BookTubeAthon. I thought it was cool that the girls over at the Summer Biannual Bibliothon decided to reach out to the book blogging community, and so I decided to do some of their challenges, but as many of you know, I was going to the mountains, which was desperately needed and was so much fun. I will insert pictures here if I can, but it was awesome, and I loved doing it, and I got some reading done while I was there, which was surprising because we were out every day. Anyway, but because of that, I wasn't able to complete all of the challenges that the Summer Biannual Bibliothon girls put up, but I was able to do a couple of them. So because I decided that I was going to be out of town for part of the BookTubeAthon and I didn't know how much I was going to read then, and because the BookTubeAthon and the Summer Biannual Bibliothon were happening at the same time, I just decided that I would start whenever the Summer Biannual Bibliothon started and end whenever the BookTubeAthon ended, so that's what I did. So I don't actually have any of the books to show you, because I returned all of the books that I got from the library, because I'm still getting used to this whole needing books to film thing, and so I'm just going to be talking about the books, but if I can insert a picture of them, then I'll do that, but apologies for that. I'll try to remember to keep them for the next video. So on day 1 of Readathon Week, which was the first day of the Summer Biannual Bibliothon, I finished the last 50 pages of Everything, Everything. Later in that week, there was actually a challenge to post a review for a book that you had been reading for the Summer Biannual Bibliothon, and so you can see my review for Everything, Everything if you check it out on my blog. After that, I didn't read anything for the next day, for the first day of the BookTubeAthon, which is actually sort of sad, but I just didn't get around to it. I was trying to do more of the blog challenges for the Bibliothon, and I was hoping that I could write them in advance and so I could schedule them while I was gone on vacation, but that ended up not working out. I really got into reading later on that week, and that is when I finished A Book in a Day and a book you bought because of the cover, and a hyped book, which I ended up reading We Are Okay by Nina LaCour, which is 234 pages. I ended up giving We Are Okay 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. Maybe enjoyed isn't the right word because it is a very serious book. Even though it is a little under 300 pages, there's a lot that Nina LaCour packs into that very small book. I really enjoyed the relationship between Mabel and Marin. I thought that it was done really well. I haven't read many Own Voices novels having to do with a lesbian relationship, but I thought that this one was handled very well, and I know that other books by Nina LaCour also have lesbian relationships in it, or a bi relationship in it, and I felt like it was honest. I also really enjoyed seeing the arc of Grandpa in the story. I thought seeing his decline in mental health was very interesting. You seriously see his decline from somebody who's putting on a persona that he has it all together and he's not somebody who's grieving, to somebody who's very broken. The second challenge that I didn't complete, but I tried to complete, was the Finish a Book Outside, and I sort of cheated with this one and didn't finish it outside, but I listened to most of it in a car, so we were outside while we were moving. I thought that it worked. For this one, I tried to read Food, a Love Story by Jim Gaffigan. And for this one, I got through 273 pages of it. I keep saying we for this one because everyone that went to the mountains with me that was traveling in my car also listened to this one, and one of the girls, one of my friends that was traveling with me, actually recommended that we listen to this one because she said that it was a really interesting audiobook. We were going to listen to The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making. We got through the first couple of minutes of that audiobook, and the writing just sounded really beautiful but sort of pretentious, and it just wasn't what we were looking for. And my friend recommended that we get this one because it sounded like a really funny audiobook. And if you have not read this audiobook, Food, a Love Story, I highly recommend it. I recommend it more in audiobook than the actual physical copy, but I'm reading the physical copy now and it is equally funny. I just think the audiobook is more funny because it's narrated by Jim Gaffigan and he's hysterical. The book is all about food and more about like different types of food and people who eat food and the stereotypes of like people who go and get certain foods. So like people who are the type of people who like drink water out of water bottles, or like the type of people who go to Whole Foods and think like they're great, or like the people who are really posh and like go out to eat every night, or the people who like only eat seafood. Like, it's a very funny book. I know that a lot of comedians and a lot of entertainers or whatever else put out memoirs and different books like that, and some of them can be sort of hit or miss in terms of like how funny they are and how relatable they are, but I think up with Amy Poehler's Yes Please, that this one is my favorite like comedic memoir. It's not as much a memoir as it is just a funny book about food, but I think Dad is Fat is more along the lines of like an actual funny memoir, like Yes Please is for Amy Poehler. But if you're looking for a funny book about food that would make you just like laugh hysterically, everyone that was driving with us up to the mountains, everyone in our car was just laughing hysterically for 4 hours there and like 5.5 hours back. So I would highly recommend this one. And then for the challenge, complete a book with a person on the cover. I read Lumberjanes volumes 1 through 4, and the first one is 112 pages, the second one is also 112 pages, and the third one is 126 pages. I really enjoyed these Lumberjanes comics. I know that some people think that they got worse as they went on. I especially loved the second one. If anyone found the first Lumberjanes confusing, I highly recommend that you read the second one. I found the first Lumberjanes pretty confusing in terms of setting up the story, what was going on. You weren't really enlightened too much into how the world worked, what the expectations are. You just got introduced to the characters and what was going on in the story, but you didn't get introduced into like the magical dynamics, and so I had literally no idea what was going on until the second one. In the second one, you have all of these epiphanies where you're like, oh, that was set up in the first one, this was also set up in the first one. Everything is smoothed out in the second one. So if you were very confused by the first Lumberjanes, I highly recommend that you go and read the second one. Everything will make more sense, I promise. Now, out of the 3 of the ones that I read in the readathon, I think the third one was my least favorite. I still liked the art style, but I think it was the art style that made me like the story the least. It was a different person who was doing the art, and it wasn't like the art was bad. I really enjoyed the way that the art was, but it was just a different art style than the way that the other comics had been, and I liked the other volumes better. And so the different change in art style for just that one comic seemed very off and weird, and it sort of mixed up the flow, and I didn't enjoy it as much. I also didn't think that the story flowed as well, although it was enjoyable to see the Bear Woman and also some of the other characters break off from each other and do mundane things. But I don't think this one was as strong as some of the other ones, but I liked the return to the old art style in the fourth one. In terms of Lumberjanes, the second volume of Lumberjanes got 5 stars, the third volume of Lumberjanes got 4 stars, and the fourth Lumberjanes got 5 stars. If you didn't notice by now, a lot of the books that ended up on my TBR that I ended up reading were not on my TBR video, and I feel like a lot of people are saying that. I feel like I made a TBR video and then was like, you know all those books that I put on that TBR video? Oh yeah, like I'm not reading any of those. But I think it was because I saw a lot of the ones in the library that I wanted to read and had on my TBR for a pretty long time and just decided that I was in the mood for reading some of those. And one of the books that had been on my TBR for a while that I saw in the library and was like, oh, I should probably read that. That would be a quick book to read for the readathon, was The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery by Gabrielle Zevon. And this fulfilled the challenge, a character that is very different from you. Now, going into this book, I didn't actually realize that A.J. Fickery was going to be as different from me as he was. He ended up being an Indian man who was in his 30s when we started the book, and he had also lost his wife, and so that was very different than me. But I wasn't expecting it to be able to fulfill this challenge. And although I liked the book, I didn't find myself loving the book. There were some aspects that I really enjoyed. I loved AJ Fickery's character arc. I loved the way that he interacted with Maya. I thought that their interactions were so cute, their daddy-daughter interactions. I loved the mystery element that unfolded. I thought that that was surprising, but also really interesting. And I thought that it was a very slice of life, revealing human emotion sort of book, where it's not so much about the story. I also didn't really like Gabrielle Zavon's writing style. I also read Memoirs of a Teenage Amnesiac, and I rated that one 3 out of 5 stars when I read it a couple of years ago, and so I just don't think that I'm a big fan of her writing style, even though I liked this book a lot more than that one. I ended up rating it 4 stars out of 5. And finally, for the last challenge, which I didn't complete, was read 7 books in 7 days, but my last book that I would have tried to complete with that one was the first Penderwyx book. I've been recently rereading the Penderwyx book. They're all by Jane Birdsall, and I don't know how many people have heard of them. When I was younger, we used to read them with my mom, and she would read them aloud, and so they were something that, like, was close to my heart, and they always remind me of summer. And so recently I saw all of the audiobooks for them on Overdrive and was like, oh, I should just, like, pick them up and read them because they're super easy contemporaries, and they're really great to listen to right before you go to bed, because I had a couple of different books. I had And I Darken, and I had Flame in the Mist by Renee Audier on Overdrive audiobook, and I realized that I just didn't want to hear about people dying, like, right before I went to bed. Like, Flame in the Mist, it's right off the bat, you're like, somebody gets slayed, and I Darken is just a really dark book, and I know, that's the whole point of it, but when I'm in the mood for someone being totally slaughtered, that sounded bad, I'm never in the mood for somebody to be totally slaughtered. When I'm in the mood for a fantasy book, or something like that, that's a little bit darker or grittier, then I'll go back and read those books. These were a breath of fresh air and a little bit more enjoyable to listen to right before you went to bed. I feel like there should be some sort of, like, drum roll. My total page count for the readathons were 1,165 pages read. Ba-ba! I think this is my most successful readathon yet. I don't think I've ever gotten through this many books or even gotten this close to the reading 7 books in 7 days challenge. I think that mixing up the books on my TBR and not reading the ones that I put on my official BookTube TBR was actually a good idea, because I had some pretty chunky ones on there other than my graphic novels, and they were just not going to happen. I realized that pretty soon after I posted them. Let me know how you did in your readathon week, if you participated in the summer biannual bibliothon and the BookTubeAthon, or if you participated in one or the other, or if you mixed and matched some of the challenges. If you have any of your daily vlogs, or you kept track of your reading throughout the week, link me to those down below too. I love to read them. I love watching everybody's daily vlogs. Those are just the best. I suck at daily vlogging. I did it for a day, and that footage was garbage, so I decided that I would just do a wrap-up at the end and do the vlogging challenges along the way, but that doesn't mean I don't love to watch everybody else's vlogs, because they are absolutely enjoyable. That is all for today. Let me know what else you would like to see from me. Give me some suggestions down in the link below. I'm trying to pre-film a bunch of stuff before I go back to school in a couple of weeks, so that when I get super swamped with stuff in the first couple of weeks, I still have some stuff to post. So if there's anything that you would like to see, some tags, some Top 5 Wednesday stuff, some TBR stuff, any of that sort of thing, some reviews, let me know in the comments down below. As always, you can check me out at official same page on Twitter and Instagram, and we're on the same page, www.we'reonthesamepage.wix.com/justjamie. I am glad that we were on the same page today, and I will talk to you later. Bye, y'all!